Well, hi friends, Pastor Chad of the Friends Church. Thanks for joining me for these few moments as I share with you a sermon preview from this week's message, where we continue on in our sermon series, Habits, Keys to Loving and Living More Like Jesus. Well, last week we took a look at the church, and we took a look at how we were to be encouragers. And we even closed with a prayer that said, "Oh Lord, make us a church where folks in the lurch are encouraged, then healed from above, where seldom is heard a discouraging word, and God's truth is modeled in," you guessed it, love. In fact, you may be wondering, Pastor, what difference does love make anyways? Well, the difference that love makes is that it makes us different than the world. And when the world looks at us, Jesus said that they'll see our love one for another and they'll know that we are Christians. When Jesus was asked what's the greatest of the commandments, he told his disciples that there are but two. First, it's to love God with all your heart, your mind, your strength, and your soul. And then the second is like it, to love others. First as yourselves, and then as Christ has loved you. And then in that 13th chapter of 1 Corinthians that we've come to know as the love chapter, the Apostle Paul tells us that what? After all is said and done, faith, hope, and love remain, but the greatest of these Christian virtues is love. And so this week we want to outline 6 key habits that help us to learn to live in the Lord's love. Not just that we might receive it, but we might reflect it to a lost and a hurting world. How do we do it? Well, first we need to accept others unconditionally, just as Christ accepts us, just as I am. Secondly, we need to be committed personally, because loving requires a personal commitment. It requires interaction. And then thirdly, we need to encourage one another continually. Last week's message said, let us consider how we may encourage one another. This week, it tells us, let's continue to do that. And then fourthly, we are to serve one another cheerfully. How are you doing at that? And fifthly, we are to forgive others freely. And then finally, we are to share the gospel verbally. I know St. Francis of Assisi has a great saying out there that says that we are to preach the gospel always, and if necessary, use words. In reality, most of us need words because our lives are not so crystal clear living for Christ that people would know that we belong to Him. But when we share what God has done for us, and we let people know that although we are forgiven, we're not perfect, and that although we are a Christian, we're still a work in progress, it encourages them to come to put their trust and their faith in Jesus as well. And so let me close with a prayer that comes out of the Living Bible. And the Living Bible is going to help us know how to live and to love more like Jesus. Let me just pray this prayer over you today. It's from Ephesians chapter 3, beginning at verse 17. Let this encourage you throughout these next few days until we meet again. And I pray that Christ will be more and more at home in your hearts, living within you as you trust in Him. May your roots go down deep into the soil of God's marvelous love. And may you be able to feel and understand, as all God's children should, how long, how wide, how deep, and how high His love really is. And to experience this love for yourselves, though it is so great that you will never see an end to it or fully know or understand it. And so at last, you will be filled up with God Himself. It goes on and says, now to Him be glory, who is by His power at work within us, able to do far more than we would ever dare to ask or even dream of, infinitely beyond our highest prayers, desires, thoughts, or hopes. May He be given glory forever and ever, endless ages, because of His master plan of salvation for the church through Jesus Christ. Might we be that church, and I hope to see you in church on Sunday. Lord bless you to be a blessing. Amen.